I'm going to talk today about one of Nashville's ugly little secrets on MusicRow. Now, there are many people who came to seek fame, that came to seek fortune, whether it's Los Angeles or New York or Nashville. These places are filled with people with stars in their eyes. I was one of them. Both LA, both Nashville, and we come in droves. And I took a little bit different approach because I'm a guitar player. I'm a sideman. I'm a songwriter. I produce. I have a lot and I'm a singer. I wore a lot of different hats, but really what I really wanted to do was just play guitar, singing and all that. I really would rather have somebody else do that. But anything that involves playing guitar, whether it's being in the studio or playing on somebody's song or playing a showcase or, just working, as long as I had that guitar in my hand, I was happy. So I wasn't trying, especially in Nashville, I wasn't trying to get a record deal. I wasn't trying to get into country music. Country music, many people have said in the comments, Nashville used to be very separate. There was a rock scene and there was a country scene. And the rock scene, was completely separate. And the country guys, over here. And if you were in the rock camp, you didn't get called over to the countryside and vice versa. But, the music all kind of changed. And that's when I started getting calls to play on, country tours and stuff like that. But I digress. The ugly secret is how the business would take advantage of people who, they had a dream, they had stars in their eyes, but they just didn't have the talent. And you can tell, there are many people that come to town, and there are a lot that do have the talent and do get pulled into this same scheme. But there were the main big studios on MusicRow, the ones where all the albums were produced, the ones where the Brent Masons and all those incredible musicians would play from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and 90s. Those were the big studios that churned out all the classic country, whether you like the old stuff or the new stuff or the 90s stuff or whatever. Those were the places where the hits were churned out. But there were also, other studios where maybe not as many of those albums would get cut. And these artist demos would get cut. And, some of these same, A-list players would be on these other sessions, these demo sessions, and, not just song demos, because here's how it would work. There would be song demos. Song demos would be, paid for usually by the publishing company or the person that wrote the song, and they were hoping that these songs would get cut by a major label artist, and, the song would become a hit, and they would get these nice, royalty checks in the mail. At one time, I was sitting down with Rob Galbraith. Now, Rob Galbraith was, worked at Ronnie's Place, the big studio on MusicRow. And, I had talked to him about, here's my songs. I write these songs. And, he said, well, I'm going to try to put you together with one of my other writers and do all this. But I just wanted to write songs on my own. I didn't really understand that I had to sit in a room with somebody and bounce ideas off and all that. And I was always one of those solitary guys in my room with my 4-track and my drum machine, trying to write a hit song. So I didn't really, get how it worked back then. And I should have followed that offer up. I sat down with the guy, and I felt like we were both coming from different places, and, nothing ever came from it. But, those studios, that songwriting thing, those songwriters would do a lot of sessions on MusicRow, and, not every song gets cut. Not every song is a hit song. So they were taking chances and putting some of their publishing money, maybe from other hits that they had, and trying to build their name. Now, they were massive songwriters that had, hundreds of hits and hundreds of cuts and all that. And, that's one thing. But what about when somebody comes to town and they can't sing their way out of a paper bag, and, someone's, instead of saying, hey guys, I'm not hearing this here, and I don't think it would be in your best interest to cut a demo, to cut an artist demo. No, they don't do that. They don't do that. What they do is they meet with you and go, oh, okay, yeah, we could really put together something great for you. We're gonna do something great. So some producer steps up and listens to this and calls them up and says, hey, I can, because what happens is people will send tapes. People would send tapes to artists, and maybe these guys would solicit by saying, if you want to become a country music star, send your demo to this address. Send your contact information and your demo here. So these guys, you could think of this as a sales lead. These guys would pick up this tape and they'd hear it and go, can't sing, songs are terrible, but let's call them up. So they call them up and say, I want to meet with you. I want to talk to you about your demo and how we can help you here in Nashville. And so these guys would get you in a room and say, look, you need a good demo. You've got some talent here, but you need a great demo if you want to get heard on MusicRow. And they would sit them down and say, look, in order to do this, you're going to need $10,000, or you're going to need $20,000, or you need, $30,000. They'll put feelers out and test. If someone recoils in horror, well, I don't have $10,000. Well, maybe you've got a relative. Maybe you've got a wealthy relative that would be willing to front this. Or maybe you can find an investor, or, any number of things. But maybe the girl's got a rich dad. Maybe they've got a rich grandfather. Maybe they've got a wealthy uncle that's willing to put the $10,000 up. Or maybe they've got super deep pockets, and this is just something that they want to do. So these producers and these studios would put together a band of killers, or maybe B-team guys. It just depends on what the budget is and who's available. When you're doing sessions, it comes down to making the call, seeing who's available. Hey, are you available for a date on this? Okay, lock it in. And if your A team is not available, they go down the list. Well, what about, let's call, so-and-so. He doesn't do as many sessions, but he'd be good on this. He'd be good on this. So these players would get the call. They go into these, little, I won't call them sub studios, but they're not maybe the huge studios unless this person has super deep pockets. And then they go, hey, if you've got, they could even pitch it as, well, if you've got 30,000, we can go into this incredible studio, and if you throw in another 20,000, we can do a music video. And if you do, it really, there's no limit to the amount of money that they could have you spending. But they would bring these players in, and you know, I've played on, you know, a handful of these type sessions where, you know, maybe they bring in some songs, you know, maybe they get a couple songs from a songwriter in town, and they bring this person in, and he go, oh, hey, nice to meet you, and you know, you're nice because, hey, man, you know, as a player, you know, like I have said before, I just want to play. So, you know, sometimes you do sessions and they're great, and sometimes they're not. And, you know, I would get my, you know, $300 or whatever it was, whatever I agreed to. You know, a lot of times these type of sessions would be off the card. It would be in a little small studio somewhere, and it'd be off the card, and you would, you know, you do this session, and you know, it would, you'd know when you heard, because a lot of times singers will, you know, sing the song down while you're, you know, you got your headphones on and you're playing the track, and you know pretty quickly that, oh man, this person can't really sing that good. And you know, I wasn't really aware at that time when I was doing those, that this was kind of like a common scam. This was kind of like a thing that these guys would do, you know, to generate income for these studios. And you know, there's only so many huge album projects, there's only so much label support, and this is the way they were keeping the lights on and keeping people fed and keeping, you know, and you know, maybe in a rare occasion that something, you know, would happen for these people, or they'd go home and they'd be local celebrities, and you know, maybe it would blow up, you know, their scene there. Hey, we went to Nashville and we did this demo and all that, and some of these people could really sing, but maybe they didn't have the look or the sound that Nashville was signed. Nashville was it's always been very cookie cutter. It's always been very, you know, this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing now. And if somebody's successful, they'll just look for a copycat, a clone, something that's, you know, very similar, the same type thing. And so, you know, you do these sessions, you know, this person can't really sing, and you're just, you know, it's a paycheck. But you know, the reality is, as a musician, you know, I'm getting like $300, or I'm getting, you know, $400 or $100 a song, or whatever, $75 a song. But the producer is, you know, taking a huge chunk because he's the producer. The studio's getting paid. You know, everybody's getting paid. And, you know, you could say that the artist is getting the experience and getting to come in these studios and actually have something in their hands, something that we didn't really have for my LA band. You know, we never really, you know, we had a cassette we did, but it was all done on an 8-track in our own little studio. It wasn't professionally done. So there's something to be said for these people getting that experience and getting to get in there and record with some veterans and some good players and all that. But the reality was, these studios and these producers were taking money from people that had no shot to make it. And that, my friends, is kind of a ripoff.